Okay.
Okay, thank you all for joining. Welcome to Sustainability. Would just like to quickly, before we even start, this week is a good reminder of attendance issues. So we've talked about before. So if we haven't had issues in a while, but if you cannot attend a meeting, even if something comes up at the last minute, if you could please let Kelly or I know, that would be very helpful. And anyone who misses 3 consecutive meetings may be asked to resign from the committee, depending on the circumstances. So just so everyone knows that. Moving forward, regarding the minutes from the last meeting, I know I have a proposed amendment. Do others as well? No. Okay. So the proposed amendment I have is it was mistakenly written that Kermit was voted in as vice chair, and actually Laura was voted
Oops.
in as vice chair.
Sorry, y'all. That was a real.
That is correct.
Okay. Um, and then I also received a slight updated minutes report from Kevin Spittler. And Kelly, do you have that in front of you?
I don't right now, but I did
Okay,
receive that, so
I
I
can
can
find it.
make those changes.
Here,
It
I
was a
can,
couple words.
yep, couple
One
words,
was
high
one was
school
high school, yeah.
and with energy saving equipment. So I think those made sense. It was just small clarifications.
And just as a logistic, my name does not have an E in the shaper. A couple times it's
Now too.
SCHAEF. It's AFFER, so just,
Thank you
I
so
don't care, but the
much.
minutes might care.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for letting us know that, so we don't make a
Welcome.
mistake in the future. So, those are the 2 proposed amendments I have. Does anyone have any additional or other, proposed amendments? No, okay. So, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Okay, vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, so moving forward on that, public comments. Do we have any public comments this evening? Kevin? Go ahead, please.
Okay, good evening. I'm Kevin Spittler. I live at 6848 Frank Lloyd Wright. I just wanted to share some information with you. First of all, I want to commend Kelly for putting all these projects in great position to succeed. The Sustainable U event also was very well attended, very lively exchange of information, and very timely in terms of some of the new information that's been made available by Dane County. And Kathy Kuntz is a wealth of information on that. Also, I just want to let you know that our 350.org group, Middleton Working Group, have been interacting with the Pleasant Valley Golf Course Committee. Bob Owen has been doing that, encouraging them to consider electric equipment, not only in the clubhouse, but also the carts. And also, he's been providing them really detailed information on autonomous mowers that are electric, that can save them labor, and all different types of mowers. Also, Bob's participated in the Airport Commission and has encouraged them to consider some electric options, and also be at the forefront of electric aviation, particularly with their association to the Oshkosh EAA and the Air Adventure event in the summer. Dave Lorman seems to be very interested in those types of things, and we think Middleton could be a trendsetter and out front of electric aviation. And it also might help with some of the complaints that are lodged against the airport. The library has raised enough money for a bookmobile, but unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be a gas vehicle. And we're disappointed in that, but I thought I'd let you know. The ice arena is being considered for some sort of upgrade and maybe a change in its arrangement with the city. They want to add some features to it. We're paying attention to that. We've also found a Chevy Blazer that's police qualified and probably pursuit vehicle that might be of interest to the Middleton Police Department. We're trying to get a demonstration of that in the Madison area, and we're in touch with the police department and also in Middleton and Madison on that. And then finally, it looks like the money for the solar arrays on wells 6 and 8 it's going to be made available for this coming year. Just so everybody in the committee knows, those 2 wells are currently the heaviest users of energy in the city, since we've been addressing other issues like the lighting. And that's important to get done for this coming year. Anyway, great work to the committee and to Kelly in particular. Keep up the good work. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. See no other public comments. Let's move forward to the staff report. Who has questions for Kelly? Questions, comments, feedback?
Christie, I just wonder if you might want to move the decision items up so that John can be here to the whole thing and move the staff report to the end.
Later. I like that, Dick. Okay. That would be great. And actually, that makes better use of Bill's time here as well. Thank you, Bill, for joining us tonight, taking the time in your evening. We appreciate it. So the committee briefly reviewed the MG&E offer, but we just felt like we wanted a little bit more explanation. So we appreciate you doing that for us. Would you like to give a quick summary and then the committee can ask, keep it short, but then the committee can ask questions of you and we can take a vote on it?
Yeah, that sounds good. And thank you for having me here this evening. For those that I haven't met, I'm Bill Burns. I'm the city's finance director, and I've been working with both Kelly and also Abby Attoon at looking at the option for the city to purchase the solar array on the police station. I put together a memo, which I believe you looked at your last meeting. And just to summarize, the city entered into a lease and a solar purchase agreement with MG&E back in 2016. As part of those agreements, MG&E installed at their expense a 100 kilowatt solar array on the building. The city provided the space and then had an agreement to purchase the solar energy produced from MG&E. That agreement included a provision that would allow the city the option to purchase the array after 5 years and after 7 years without an early purchase penalty. So knowing that those 7 years had come up, there was a budget request for the 2024 budget that set aside $76,000 in capital funding to potentially purchase the solar array. And as staff, we started entering into discussions with MG&E to determine the purchase price for that solar array if the city wished to exercise the option. We met with MG&E. They provided information, and the agreements spell out the process that shall be used for calculating the purchase price, which is based on the fair market value of the array. They provided those calculations and their price that they would be willing to sell to the city, which came in at $81,733. They also shared their spreadsheets and their calculations. We took a look at that, looked at the analysis, and based on that, we essentially have 3 options. We can either accept their purchase price and purchase the array for that $81,733. If we don't agree with their price, there is a process where the city and MG&E could either work together to select a nationally qualified appraiser with expertise in this industry. If we both agree on an appraiser, we would split the cost. If we don't agree on an appraiser, we would each hire one at our own expense and then come to a combined value. Option 2 would be to go that appraisal route. And option 3, as we discussed it, would be to not purchase the array. MG&E had offered to provide the RECs for the array to the city. If they kept ownership of it, they would turn those over to the city at this point, and that would free up the $76,000 that could be invested for another project to try to enhance sustainability within the city of Middleton. And as we discussed this, we felt that from a financial perspective, there is not a benefit financially to the city to purchasing the array. And I know there were some questions about that raised at the previous meeting of generally given the solar industry, why is there not a financial benefit to the city when usually new solar installations do have a positive payback? And I think there really are two different things. It's a different analysis to look at putting in a new solar array, what's your capital cost and what's your payback over time, versus this agreement with MG&E, which sets a purchase price not at the depreciated value of the array, but at its current estimated fair market value. And that fair market value calculation takes into account the projected energy generation, the value of that energy, the maintenance costs of the array, and by definition, it's essentially trying to set those even, that your expected future value of the array is what the purchase price would be. So generally, you would expect that it would be about a break even. However, what really pushes this into a financial negative for the city is that MG&E's position is that the city would need to have a purchase price that makes MG&E whole on that fair market value calculation on an after-tax basis, because they would have some taxes they would need to pay from the proceeds of the sale. And that's about $22,000 roughly in taxes. So when you combine those together, it just financially is not a net positive to the city. So if there's a policy reason why the city wants to own the array, that might be worth considering. But our feeling at a staff level was, given that there's not a financial benefit, the city is eligible to receive the RECs from MG&E, and we already are purchasing clean energy from the solar array, we may be better off repurposing that $76,000 that was budgeted rather than purchasing this and not having a financial benefit.
Thank
So,
you, Bill.
Be happy to answer any questions from anyone.
Good. I'm going to cut over to Alder Schaefer, please. You're muted, John.
There we go. Sorry.
problem.
Thanks for that update and information. I guess the big question is here, it seems the short-term logical thing is to just keep the agreement in place. But what happens if MG&E keeps and maintains this or doesn't maintain this in 3 or 4 years down the road? What's going to happen in terms of potential future agreements and stuff? Is this a short-term benefit that becomes a long-term deficit for the city? You just speculate, please.
Yeah, if the city doesn't exercise the option to purchase, we still have the current lease agreement and the solar purchase agreement in place. So MG&E would need to continue to comply with the terms of that lease in terms of maintaining the solar array and making that available for the city to purchase energy. If at some point in the future they decide not to maintain or not to keep up that array, then I think that would give us the opportunity to look at the termination clauses in the lease. But if we don't purchase, they would be obligated to continue to maintain that to allow us to purchase the energy.
So I take that's not an immediate downside to this, to doing nothing.
I don't personally see that as a downside.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kermit.
Yeah, Bill, thanks for shedding some light on this murky, shadowy world of high finance that we're dealing with there. When you maybe I'm not totally understanding, but at its face, it seems kind of like, wait, so they have to pay taxes and they're saying, so we need to pay their taxes for them? That maybe I'm misrepresenting exactly what you're trying to explain, but at its face, that's what it sounded like. And it seems that doesn't sound right. I mean, people buy something or they sell something, they make a profit, they have to pay a profit on the tax. Or pay tax on the profit, and that's their responsibility. It's not the seller's responsibility. So how did this happen, and is this common? Does this make sense, or am I misunderstanding?
Yeah, the agreement states that the purchase price would be based on the fair market value, and the agreement goes through how that would be calculated. So MG&E provided information that's showing what their Proceeds from the sale would be on an after-tax basis, and comparing that to the benefits of ownership in terms of the energy being produced minus the maintenance expenses. So I think that that is part of the intent of the original agreement, that if the city is purchasing it, we're essentially making MG&E whole. So that's why you're looking at what they would receive on an after-tax basis compared to the projected future energy production and costs of the solar array. And I can't speak to whether or not that is typical. This is the only solar installation and purchase agreement that I've been involved with personally. Looking back at some of the notes from when the city entered into this agreement, it looks like, and just kind of inferring into it, that the city wasn't in a position at that time to pay for the installation of an array. MG&E was fronting the cost. We entered into this agreement, but I think MG&E's expectation was, since they were fronting the cost, that they wanted to be made financially whole if the city purchased it in the future.
Okay, Dean.
Yes, thanks for all the updates. So if we continue with as is, when is either the next opportunity to purchase, or is there anything written into it about how long that it has to go on? I mean, I want to know how far we're kicking the ball down the street here.
Yeah, the original agreements, I believe, had a 25-year term, and I think there was at least one 5-year extension available. The language about the option to purchase indicates that the city has the option to purchase after 7 years. I'm looking at the agreement now. I don't believe there is a sunset on that. So I think we would have the option if in the future, 5 years down the road, we wanted to exercise the option to purchase, we would get an updated fair market calculation and consider it at that time.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dick?
I'm kind of dumb on this stuff. If the solar array is there, are we buying the electricity that it produces?
Yes.
And if we own it, do we get that electricity for free? So I guess, so the answer to those two questions, and if they are yes on both, then what is the savings that we wouldn't be paying a year for what the electricity is that we're now purchasing?
Yeah, so the answer to the first question is yes, the city is purchasing the energy that's being produced. If the city purchases the array, it would be getting the benefit of that energy production minus our cost to maintain the array. And the fair market calculation looks at what is the purchase price and comparing it to the value of that energy being produced in the future minus those expected maintenance costs. And to get an idea of what that is per year.
How much are we paying? How much are we paying right now for that energy? Just give me that number to start with.
Yeah, I am looking for that, just a moment. Okay, so it is in the ballpark, I believe between roughly $8,000 per year.
Okay, so we would save $8,000 on the electricity, but now we have to maintain it. And what are we talking about maintenance? Do these maintenance costs go up as this thing gets older? At 25 years, is the life expectancy 25 years, 30, something like that? What does it take to maintain these things?
Kelly, jump in too if you know the answers to some of these things.
Well, if the electricity is $8,000 a year, the array won't cover, if we purchase the array, it won't cover all the electricity. It would cover approximately 25% of the electricity in that building, I believe. So we're not really saving 100% of the money that we're paying on electricity fully for that building.
Yeah, but if we're saving $8,000 a year, okay, even let's say the police department uses 32,000 electricity, if it's a rough number. If this is 25% of their electricity consumption, but we're saving 8,000 by having 1/4 of the consumption that we produce. And I guess what I'm leading to is, as we move forward with more of these kinds of solar arrays on different buildings, is the goal to own all of these so that in essence, we're going to try to produce as much of our own electricity as possible or not? And I'm also looking at what is our community, our city government energy goals. So I guess we get the benefit of meeting some of our energy goals by this police department solar array because it is being produced by renewable sources, even though we're paying for it, but we get to say that we're producing more of our renewable energy needs. We're just paying for it. I was thinking that all along, as we put more of these solar systems up on all these different city buildings, a golf course, whatever, we would want to own them, and we would want to have the capacity to maintain them. And here's one that we wouldn't own and wouldn't maintain. I don't see how this moves forward, and it feels like, well, 8,000 a year, and we got to pay 80,000, so that's going to take us 10 years. But electricity costs are going to go up, right? I mean, there's no guaranteed set rate on this for 25 years of this lease, right? So they could charge us more to furnish the electricity. So there's a lot of pronged questions here, and I don't know if I've complicated your answers, but I just like to get a feeling for what are we losing by not owning this thing.
Okay, so let's hold that question, hold it out there. Let's go. Laura, do you still have a question? Your hand was up.
Yeah, he hit on it at the end. My question, I guess, dovetailed off of that at $8,000 a year energy savings, and the purchase price is basically 81K. You got 10 years is like your break-even point, and this array is 8 years old, so it's an 18-year-old asset by the time we start break even. So from straight financials, we're basically paying that off. We're not going to be benefiting from it financially for at least like 10 years or so, approximately, because of it's a net present value purchase. So by definition,
yeah, and there's maintenance costs too, Laura. So we won't even save 8,000 maybe.
So we go out.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Bill,
if I
and then
can,
we'll
can jump in, just
John.
looking at some of the spreadsheets, the amount net of maintenance costs, and there's like $1,500 per year annual maintenance, and then the replacement of the inverters is the bigger cost, and that's done periodically. So on an average basis, it starts off at about $4,000 a year net projected income, and that is projected to step up over time as the value of energy goes up. And you can play with those assumptions, but it would be a very long payback period based on those assumptions. And that's the thing. Like if we wanted to dispute the purchase price with MG&E, we could hire an appraiser. They might look at the maintenance cost assumptions. They might look at the energy production assumptions. But I think we're at a point where we either take this number from MG&E, in which it's going to have a very long payback, or we go through the process to hire an appraiser and see if we can get a little bit more favorable purchase price. I guess my conclusion is I don't see this being a net financial benefit to the city, at least not a large one. If there's, like I said, a policy reason why we want to own it, that might be another conversation. But from a pure finances, I don't see it as being a real strong positive for the city.
Alder Schaefer.
Yeah, I guess the question's raised is, what do we lose by not owning this? But what do we gain by owning it? And I think I trust the city's numbers on this thing. And I trust what Dean's done, and that the fact is there's a lot of payout in this. To me, the issue is let's be sustainable. And does it mean we pay money to it or we own it? Those are irrelevant as long as we're being sustainable. And I think the message at the moment is clear that owning this thing is not necessarily, doesn't make it more clean or more effective to the environment. It just is not financially the right thing at the right time for the city. So I think I stand by the recommendation that we do nothing, we keep renting it. We're still getting the electricity, there's still solar power here. And the fact is, I think we're doing a good thing and saving money, so. It's my
I do
10 cents.
I do actually concur myself with that assessment. And this would free up money for potentially other sustainable projects.
Yep.
Including a very important one, which is the next one on the agenda item, the police station solar, which I think has a huge potential. I really applaud Kelly's foresight in this. It's been years in the works. And I think this is sustainability committee could make a really strong case if we turn over this money and not purchase the solar, and it's still renewable, producing renewable energy, and the money could be used for additional sustainable things. So, but we definitely we either kind of, this is my understanding is this, we have this last shot to get this police station solar and really secure this, $30,000, 29,700, or the project is probably dead. I really think that's my thought. We pass on this, that I agree, follow staff's recommendation, and then we invest in other sustainable things. That's my thought.
My hand's not up, I concur.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
and I think I'm convinced now too. I just wanted to see those numbers. I don't want to buy something like Laura says, it's 8 years old, and the maintenance cost of being 4,000 and we're producing 8,000 in energy. Let's let the energy be produced so we can still count it towards our community energy goals, and then use the money somewhere else instead of buying the first one that was put up, right? And so it's actually older. Let's not be maintaining an older system.
Yeah.
Could I just make
I'd be willing to make a motion on the recommendation that basically we follow the Bill Burns's what he's saying here is that we're not going to purchase that the city not purchase the solar array.
Kelly, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was going to ask that it would be helpful to have a motion on this. And then secondly, just to say one comment about this whole thing. Just so you know, fair market value and the finances of this particular transaction for solar is not the same as it would be when you're evaluating solar on another building. That's a whole other financial consideration with different parameters. Fair market value isn't the same as figuring ROI on a new solar construction. Just so you know, they're different.
Anyways, this is Alder Schaefer, and I will make that motion that we do not buy.
Okay, did we have a motion from Dick or?
I thought I made that motion in convoluted words, so I would allow John to second it. If
I will second it, thank you. I
Okay.
thought you wanted somebody to do it, so I did it.
Oh,
No,
I think it was
I was
quick.
basically saying I want to make that motion.
All
Yeah,
right,
okay.
I second it.
Thank you. Kermit, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I was, so Bill, it sounds like what just to recap for my purposes, we have your financial calculations, which are driven by the fair market value, which MG&E has generated. And based on that, we have this price, and the numbers don't pencil out in our favor to make a purchase. And you then also say that we could do an appraisal to see whether or not MG&E's case is unduly biased in their favor, which businesses have been known to do that. But are we saying that it's, if you factor in the time and trouble of doing the appraisal, and the fact that it's a crapshoot because we don't know what the outcome will be, it's not worth it? Or I mean, anyways, I'm just trying to,
So my understanding, and Kelly and Bill, speak up if I'm wrong, but it would lead to, there's a lot of uncertainty in getting the appraisals done. So we could have months and months down the road, Kermit, of,
Yeah,
getting these appraisers done, and it could even come out a higher price even. If there's,
Right.
they could even say, oh, wait, no, it's MGD isn't even
Right.
charging you enough. Whereas now we can make the decision based, and they've already looked at these time and time again. We could just walk away from this and then do other things, and we still have the renewable energy there.
right. Yes, I understand that, but I was asking Bill for his opinion of that.
Sure. Okay.
Because basically the frustration that we're dealing with is that none of us are finance majors, I don't think. Hold up your hand if you are. Laura, you were dropping net present value, maybe you qualify. But so I have to defer to Bill as far as, okay, so what are you saying, that there's no point in doing the appraisal because even though we might come out ahead, we might come up behind and it's going to cost goofy amounts of money to do it. So let's pull a plug, or what's the take there?
Yeah, I think that's essentially correct. MG&E provided the information and the calculation. They were showing a negative net present value to the city of about 34,500. We did try to negotiate with MG&E on that purchase price amount. We also took their numbers and changed some assumptions, but even with changing some of those assumptions, I was not getting the fair market value to come out as positive within the original 25-year term of the agreement. And you add to that the cost and the time of getting the appraisal, plus the uncertainty that that's going to be in the city's benefit, because the assumptions for the fair market value are pretty well spelled out in the agreement. So yes, it's my recommendation conclusion that from a financial perspective, it's not worth the cost or the time to pursue further at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Why don't we, hearing no other discussion points, I think we take a vote on that. Is that, Tony?
Yeah, I just want to
That's how
add
you do
one
it.
thing. I came to the same conclusion that Kelly just articulated, that we're kind of comparing apples and oranges when you compare, as I was doing, my experience with putting solar on my house and a much different arrangement that's going, that's exists now. But the comment I wanted to make was, I think we should frame this as supporting MG&Es and in a sense kind of demanding that MG&E continue their development of green energy, of non-fossil fuel, renewable energy, and even in the future approach them, in that way, particularly around like getting them to change the streetlights. I mean, we want to collaborate with them, and I think we should do that in a positive way. And I think, we can kind of frame it that way. But it might be something, ongoing that the city, partners, but also influences what MG&E does, and maybe speeds up their conversion to renewables and to different kinds of energy efficiency, like our streetlights.
That's a goal. And then in the, there are, items in the staff report about the streetlights.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah, so that was great that Kelly put that in there. Okay, so, I didn't hear, Tony, I think you didn't have a different motion or different direction. I think we have a motion and a second on the floor. I think let's move forward with the vote. All in favor of the motions on the floor, which is to pass on the solar array. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that's, I think, any nays?
And by pass on, you mean pass on buying?
We will not buy. City will not buy,
Yes.
is our recommendation.
I
Okay.
think you can just ask
Well, we
nays and you'll find out if it's
Sorry,
unanimous.
say that?
Just ask for nays and see if it's unanimous.
Yeah, there was no nays, so unanimous.
Well, yeah, you didn't ask, but so I didn't.
Oh, I thought I did, didn't I? No?
I thought she did.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, but I like being called out if I miss things, so thank you.
No, that's all right.
Okay, so we're good, unanimous. Let's move on. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. You're welcome to stay at our meeting. We like having you here, but you can also go enjoy your evening if you'd like.
I may, unless there are other questions for me, but again, thanks for having me here.
Thank
Glad
you.
I could help with the discussion.
Thank you. Thanks very
Thank
much
you.
for taking the time.
Very helpful, Bill.
Yeah,
Yes.
agree. Okay. All right, thank you. So we want to see you go off and enjoy your night. That's what we're expecting.
Yeah, go off.
Goodbye.
Go off.
Okay, next thing I think is a really important, let's, we're gonna again hold the staff report for now, which is a great suggestion, Dick, thank you.
Yeah,
On to the change order, for the police station solar. So I had the opportunity to sit with Kelly, last week as we were discussing the agenda, and Kelly really explained this to me in more detail. And for those of us who have been on the committee a little bit longer, this has been an ongoing project that I think we all think it's great. We want, but we want to understand it and make sure it is a good thing for the city. And I have become more and more convinced that this is a really good thing. And it is just, we really need, this is the last chance to sort of save this. And there is a public safety component, of course, the sustainability component. So, Kelly, this is part of the backup, right? So let's just say, I mean, we lost power. I'll just quickly say we lost power at my house in Middleton Hills for the first time in 16 years we've lived here. Never had lost power until several months ago. So what, Kelly, am I right in saying that this battery storage project, if for some reason there's a natural disaster or something and the power goes down, this will keep the police station up and going, right?
It can. It really sets it up for a future automated islanded microgrid. Right now, if the battery is installed, it'll provide peak shaving, meaning that it'll help the solar work more efficiently on the roof and lower the price of electricity there, because it will be able to pull for electricity from the battery during the times when energy is the most expensive to pull from the grid, and then use the grid power when energy is least expensive. So that's what peak shaving is. Also, there's a manual switch capability that in the event of a power outage, they could switch to battery power for a certain period of time, and then the solar will keep generating and loading into the battery. It probably wouldn't be able to be a fully functioning long-term islanded microgrid at this point, but having this system and this battery will set us up to be able to switch to that if we need to or want to in the future when we switch out our generator.
Okay, and there's a lot, I know, you know, we don't want to consider necessarily sunk costs from an economic standpoint, but we are just really close in the grand scheme of things. 29,000 is nothing. And if we can just secure this 29,000, we move forward, and it's sort of the last chance. Because, go ahead.
So this is Alder Schaefer, and I'm going to make a motion that we approve the 29.7 and go ahead with this shift of funds to let this happen through.
I like your way of thinking
I
and moving
second
forward with the
Just
motion
do
right
it.
away.
You know, we can talk all night, but the fact is,
Great,
I want this to happen, so.
I like this. Okay, and we have a
I
second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Passed. Wonderful.
Good.
Good work.
That's
Okay,
called being expeditious.
I love it.
Expedient.
I love it. Okay, great. Planning department budget request. Let's move on to that one next, since we're just cruising along here. So Kelly prepared these very well for our review. Thoughts, comments, questions?
Do you want me to say anything about it, or do you want to just start talking?
No, say something. I don't understand it.
Okay. What I put in your packet is what was officially put into the finance and council packet from the planning department. So this first page that's on your screen now shows the projects that the planning department is submitting for budget request in a prioritized list. So they put the 2 sustainability items as 1, 2 from the planning department.
Right.
And then sorry, my son's playing the piano in the other room. It's throwing me off.
God, gosh darn musicians.
Oh, yeah, it's a good thing, right? So switching now solely to sustainability, I put in for 2 budget requests for 2025. One is the Efficiency Navigator Program, a 1-year sort of stopgap measure with using capital funds to keep this program going between the ARPA funding that has finished and we've now allocated through the end of 2024 and the potential for using TIF 3 affordable housing extension money in the future, which could potentially support something like this program. The reason that I would advocate for funding the Energy Efficiency Navigator program is that we have a lot of ways to leverage additional funds through the Inflation Reduction Act, which is now available for homeowners and landlords and renters. We have a grant through the Department of Energy, which adds money to this program because Middleton will get $20,000 of cash to help cover my administrative costs and time to work on the Energy Efficiency Navigator regionally. It's a separate grant. It's funding that I'll already be using to work on this as part of that grant. And instead of talking more, Christy said, you need some visuals. And so I do have a very quick visual 1-pager, which might, so I can stop talking and you can look, and it's very rough at this point. But
Well, I see it's a committee.
Can you see this right now?
I can, yes.
There.
Okay,
Can
so
you make it a little bigger, Kelly?
yeah, let me try to make it bigger. I really want to show you this second page. This is what I want to show you. Let me try to make it bigger. If I could just do.
Just go to the full screen mode at the bottom there. There you go.
Okay, so when you think about this, you think, 150,000 is a large capital ask for a program we've already been working on. We have a ton of momentum on this project now. There's a lot of demand in Middleton. We have more work than we can already cover with the ARPA funding. If we had $150 capital funding, and this would only happen if we were able to leverage these funds with capital, we'd be able to add $20,000 of our Energy Future grant to that funding and work in tandem with that grant. Elevate Energy has said that they have $10,000 to $15,000 in philanthropy match to put into the pot. And then most excitingly, now that the Inflation Reduction Act program has been released for homeowners, we have an incredible opportunity to leverage money so that the work we do in each unit could potentially, we could use $24,000 of combined IRA funds per unit. And it wouldn't end up being the maximum, but some range between this homes box and this here box. Those are Inflation Reduction Act programs that Kathy Kuntz talked about at the Sustainable U. There's a lot of money dropping right now for homeowners. There's also the potential for a 30% tax credit for the solar that we could put on some of these buildings. That's in addition to focus on energy incentives. And then right now, from what we've modeled and seen in our previous 2 years of work on this, per unit, tenants are saving between $164 and $1,100 per year on their energy costs. And then you can see in the next box, they're saving carbon emissions and they're gaining a lot more comfort, housing stability because they're saving in utility costs. It means that they get to stay in their same school district instead of being evicted or switching houses because of unaffordable rents and utility bills. And then, there's a lot of factors that you can't measure, like externality costs, like healthcare costs and air and water pollution from the reduced carbon emissions, those types of things. So my case that I'm making is that the $150,000 capital will literally leverage tens of thousands of additional dollars for tenants and landlords and the city. It's within Middleton. And we'll be doing all of this within the backdrop of this larger Department of Energy grant that's working to scale this up. So Middleton has become and is emerging as a real leader in this, and we're learning a lot. We're early adopters, which is always really difficult and challenging. But that's why I wanted to keep this program going for this next year before the TIF money becomes potentially available. So that's that project.
So it's, go ahead, Kermit.
So just to clarify, so this project, the request is for addressing 2 to 4 buildings with 8 to 16 units total, so somewhere in the city. And could you say a little bit more about how the $150,000 unlocks or leverages these other program funds? Because it seems like those program funds are independent of the capital grant unless there's some contingency that I didn't understand from your brief description.
Well, what we've learned is that landlords are really busy and cash strapped and often don't have money for the first costs to work on this. And so we would be able to come forward and help. The whole beauty of the Efficiency Navigator program has been getting landlords into the program and then walking them through it step by step, help finding them the contractors, helping them get the work done. And then along the way, it's the Efficiency Navigator that really understands the IRA programs and the focus on energy incentives and can take all that, get all that leveraged. It's a lot for I'm just concerned about working on climate change in our communities quickly. We have about 10 years of these program funds, and I think it's going to require some hand holding and additional money and helping people get used to it. And then we'll have all these stories and case studies, and we're like building a snowball effect of what we've already accomplished. We've already worked in 27 units and 13 buildings. So we've helped 27 families reduce their utility bills,
Right.
sometimes substantially, and draw down carbon emissions in a lot of different units and buildings.
Right, but my question or the essence is, so what does the $150,000 do in that? I mean, is that to pay for your time? Is that for you to contract out to people who will be doing the energy efficiency audits, or again, I'm just not hearing that yet. I mean,
Okay.
the program's good. I'm just trying to understand how this grant fits in that, or how this budget line item fits into that.
Of the $150,000, approximately 120 to 130,000 would be spent on the actual systems and paying the contractors directly to get the work done in these buildings. And then there's a certain cost for administration for the program partners, which include Elevate Energy, Sustained Dane, community partners that involve some workforce housing work. So there's some administrative consulting fees, but the majority of it goes towards the actual heat pumps, weatherization, insulation, and the work. And then, go ahead.
Go ahead, Kelly.
And so is there still skin in the game from the landlords? Because there is perhaps an equity issue related to that question of, okay, are we just, I know this is raised as a concern perhaps back when this program was starting, and I just want to make sure we're keeping the line to balance so that we're not giving a free ride to everybody, to the landlords necessarily, that they have some investment literally and figuratively.
Yeah, we found that working with the landlords in the last couple years, they go above and beyond. Once they get moving and they get that momentum, they're all working along, not all of them, but most of them are working alongside us to improve their units as well because it's a huge boost. So some of them are also buying their own systems, buying water heaters, doing more on weatherization, thinking more about public health, sharing costs and hiring contractors to do bits of additional work. So that's what we're seeing in the program. And then they do sign, it's not legally binding, but they sign a 5-year MOU to not raise rents above the fair market value for the tenants. And so the tenants are really the ones benefiting from lower utility bills, and the landlords benefit by lower operating costs for the building and not having to replace things on the fly and getting fossil fuel equipment instead of more efficient equipment.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for
Current-
putting that on the meeting record. I think those are important details and to help explain it. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Let's go Dick and then John.
Yeah, I had some similar questions to what Kermit just articulated, that what does the landlord have to put in here? Because we don't want to be just offsetting the cost to the landlord. And I don't want to see them, well, we got newer units, we got better energy efficiency things. It cost us money to do something or pretending it did, therefore we're going to raise the rent. So the 5-year rent agreement, if they do receive these monies, they can't raise the rent. But you say to the fair market value, but my God, the fair market value of rent is going up $200 a month. I know my daughter's just had stuck with that a couple of times. So are the benefits really coming to lower the total rental costs, not just the utility costs? It's great that the utility costs are going down, and that helps our renewable energy usage goals, I guess, as a community. But are the rental costs going down, the total costs, utilities plus rent, that a renter would have to pay? So if we're spending our tax dollars to offset what a building owner would have to put into it, we want to see that we're really benefiting basically lower income families that are living in some of these older units, right? Isn't that the goal?
Yes, everyone who takes part in this program has to meet eligibility criteria, and we only select projects that are at 80% or we target regions of the city that are majority 80% AMI, which means 80% area median income. And the tenants directly benefit from lower energy burdens. Energy burden is when you combine your rent with your utility bills. And we're seeing in a lot of these apartments that people have utility bills that are hundreds of dollars because they have really inefficient systems. So it's the tenant who pays a lot of additional money. And, for them, whether it's rent or utility, it's all their money that comes out of their bank account. So, some of them are renting from these rental units because the rent looks low. But then once they get into the building, they pay exorbitant energy costs because the buildings aren't energy efficient. And so then they need to stop paying their energy bills because they can't afford it. And then their energy gets shut off and then they get evicted. And that's happening quite often. That happens in Middleton quite often. So in some of the cases, and I think about 4 of the units who will have solar, they'll be saving potentially $1,100 a year, which is a lot for someone, for someone
Yeah.
with several kids and
Yeah, can I follow up? I mean,
Yeah.
basically, I get it that they're saving on their utility costs, but if they're really low rental units because they're
Oh,
dumps, they're old,
um,
what's the prevention of having
Yeah.
the owner raising the rents up to more, other rental rates similar to more modern units.
Yeah, that's the 5-year agreement that they sign, and they also go through a pretty extensive vetting process where they are interviewed and we talk to them about, you know, the real goals of the program are to pass along savings to the renters, and are they on board with that? And most of the landlords that we're working with, you know, they understand that that's the goal, and they want to take care of their tenants, and it hits a benefit to them to not have high turnover in their tenants. So they want their tenants to be able to stay and afford it and have some stability from year to year. So
Kelly, do you mind if I jump in really
Yeah.
quick here? Because John has to leave in 3 minutes. So Alder Schaefer, do you want to say your comments?
Yeah, I guess I do. I mean, all this discussion is great, and I hope all of you appreciate the fact that Kelly has given you phenomenal answers to all this stuff. And it's her job. She does all of these things, and she does it very well. And you know, as an alder, I have to realize that my position is to create policy, and it's city staff to implement the policy. And I think Kelly's doing a great job, and I've not heard a single thing she said that would somehow make me think that she's doing this and we shouldn't be behind her in this thing. And I just want to assert that totally support what she's doing here. And I support her ability and her skill, and want to say that not to shut off conversation. I just think that we have a proposal from her that's good, thought out. Her, you know, Kelly's motivation is to do what's best for the city. And I just want to say thank you very much and support you. And I think that this whole initiative is fine, and she's supported that through her comments.
That's wonderful. Okay. Alder Schaefer has to leave in 2 minutes. I think we,
I could do
because
3
of
minutes.
3 minutes, but yes, and you said that an hour ago, so that's fair. And I may have let this discussion go on too long. Do we have a motion to approve? Did we talk about both of them?
no,
I think we just talked about the one.
Okay. Do we have a motion to, is everyone okay with the second one? You know, do we have a motion to recommend both? What are we thinking here?
Well,
I
I
need-
personally would make a motion to support both, but obviously other people have issues and
Okay,
concerns.
do we have a second on the motion to support both at this point?
I can second that.
Okay,
Well, I don't even know what the second is. I mean, can we just quickly,
Yeah,
like,
I think
1
we should
minute,
have
just describe what the second is?
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Kelly, why
Yeah.
don't you give a 1 minute max summary?
okay. The sustainable building guidelines item is to create a city policy for developers and all development for new construction or major renovation to help developers build green. We cannot require that developers do anything above state code. So this would not be a large stick for developers, but I often have developers call me and say, I want to do the right thing. I want to build green. What are your top 3 priorities that you want to see in my building? And I feel like we need to develop a document that we can slide across the table and say, this is what we want. This is what we expect when you develop in Middleton. It doesn't mean that they can't negotiate or they can't not meet those, what we want to see, but it just gives them a roadmap for what we want to see. I know the county is really interested in this and wants to work on this with us because they need the same document that's regional. But we all have our own zoning codes and slight differences per city. So this would help us provide guidelines for developers. It could be for single family and for new developments.
Alder Schaefer.
Yeah, so exactly what is the money being spent on in this process?
Yeah, it would be spent on hiring a consultant to help us with the process and probably the stakeholder engagement, which would be the most taxing for staff for me to manage, to reach out and have enough engagement with developers and with the public about this, and it's pretty technical too, because although I have a background in green building, I think once you get into stating your targeted energy use intensity goals and things like that, I would like to have help with that.
Kelly has talked to me about this, wanting to do this for quite some time. So I support this budget ask.
It's in all of our plans to do this in the justification, but I agree that it's not spelled out enough, I think, for the budget. So I think it needs another once over with the, what would you really get with this money? And it might be something that we talk to the county about, a joint effort. So I wanted to get it in here, but I'm very open to suggestions on this or guidance to, do more work.
As being on the council with the budgets, it strikes me that if you don't know exactly how you're gonna spend the money, it's premature to put the money in the budget.
Yeah.
I think I strongly, absolutely support the concept of what you're
Mhm.
talking about. But maybe this part of it needs to be pulled until you have an absolutely better plan as to what to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's how
That's
I
a
feel.
fair assessment.
Yeah, I just felt 75,000, what are we getting for it and who's paying
Yeah,
for it?
yeah, we don't
And the
know
fact
yet.
that the county wants to do something, maybe we should get more partnership out of the county and we give them 25,000 and let them, work on it, or we be a part of it, but.
Okay, Kermit, very fast.
At the same time, I hear what John and Dick are saying. At the same time, it's been delayed and we haven't got around to it. We haven't gotten this figured and that figured. I think in terms of leveraging our outcomes, buildings are where the problem is outside of transportation. And if we can't give guidance, we don't have a leg to stand on to complain. So I think if we can help the developers do it right, this makes sense. And I think if we can stake out some money that can be then
Yeah.
spent prudently and collaboratively and creatively, I'd like to see some money get applied to this so that we can get this project moving along. Otherwise, it's going to be another year.
Okay, Alder Schaefer.
Yeah, I agree completely. I guess I was gonna amend my motion, but I think we should move ahead. I'm gonna stand with my motion because this may run into problems with the council and the budget, but at least it puts the message forward. That this is
Okay, so
important.
you're making a motion.
I did make the
You
motion.
made a motion.
Made
To
the
approve
motion.
all of that. Yep, and it's been seconded.
It had been second. Okay, all in favor of the
Official
motion?
question is any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, then call the vote.
Any further discussion? Am I
Well,
hearing?
I thought Kelly was actually saying that she felt that this was a little bit immature, so I guess I'm curious on.
Immature or premature?
Well, and even you were saying that, I didn't mean immature,
Yeah,
premature, sorry.
I'm just saying, I think that when it gets to the council and the budget committee, they probably won't pass the $75,000 because there's not a proposal, but at least it makes it clear to them that there's a concern and an urge. And so therefore, I
Right.
think it's okay to push this forward. I certainly am aware what's going on, so I can be a voice.
Okay, Dick, what are you still
Any further
contemplating?
Well, okay, Kelly
Just-
threw water, I was gonna pass it just because, but we spend $75,000 on other stuff and we beat it to death to make sure we all have all the understanding of it, and I don't have an understanding of this. And I'll vote for it, but I heard Kelly say, well, maybe it could be a little more developed and we have a better understanding what we're getting and county could be a partner. These are things that make me feel like it's not ready to be voted on, but we've got a motion to vote on both. And I'm not gonna
Well,
vote against it, so that's what I'm saying, unless John,
I'm willing to amend my motion to remove the $75,000 from the motion.
well, then
Dean.
I'm
Just vote
gonna
on the
ask Kelly.
Okay,
150,000.
we haven't heard from Dean yet. Dean, I saw you have.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, Kelly, how long would it take you to put in a couple of sentences and a couple of lines on what the $75,000 would go for, rather than wait a year?
I think I needed an extra week and I'm just
Okay,
very busy. I would like to develop this a bit more, but I know that it's I mean, I could put that together. I think I think whatever council does with it, they do with it, but I think support from the sustainability committee is helpful because even if it doesn't pass, then, you know, it's in people's minds for next year and they could tell me more pointedly, we want to see this, 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 and this.
Well, I stand with my motion then.
Okay.
Okay.
Laura, let's
I
go to
stand
Laura.
with John's motion too.
Okay, Laura.
Let's just go on. Let's just vote. I'm
Okay,
good.
all right. All in favor of the motion on the floor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No.
Who
Thank you.
seconded
All right.
that? As a clarification, who seconded that?
No, I did.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was doing, all right. My apologies for having to go. Enjoy
you
the
so
rest of the
much.
meeting. I'm sure it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us
All right,
when
that's
you
right.
could, John.
Thanks,
Thank you.
John.
Have a good night.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Jen.
Said leave and it won't leave.
We won't let him leave. There's a setting there, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you everyone for moving those along. Let's now, should we move back to the staff report, hike up there, first, since we missed that? If we're going in order, we can do this too, doesn't matter, you have it up, let's just, do this and then we'll go to staff report.
Okay,
Okay.
this is just an update on where we're at with the Sustainability Committee operating budget, which is $10,000 per year. It doesn't roll over. We have spent $5,417. The budgeted spend that we have as accurately as we can as of now would put us at about $9,100 with the question mark on, you know, several $100s potentially for a lunch, which would be an engagement event with staff for the sustainable purchasing policy, perhaps some additional admin. There's some other monies we could spend, like the upgrade to the website banner, which would be, I think, a couple $100. Additional advertisements, which would boost Sustainable You social media posts. Those are like, you know, $20 here, $20 there. But that's where we stand.
Okay. That looks good. In my opinion, we could just say, unless people have specific things, we could say, looks good for now, and we should move on to the other items on the agenda tonight is my thought. Okay, great. Let's go, keep in mind, and Kelly's staff reports are always good. We do have quite a few other things, namely Laura's IPP plan tonight. So who has questions, comments for Kelly, if any, about the staff report? Okay, not seeing any. Let's go to Vice Chair Buchholz.
Okay, well, I'll try and keep it short. First, I got to share my screen.
Okay, let me
Um,
stop my share. See if this
okay,
will, if it is easy, we'll see.
okay. Did it stop yours?
Mm-hmm.
So I put share. All right, let's see if it'll.
Yep, I see it. It just needs to be full screened.
I do have to go full screen here. All right, let me ask you, can I switch screens like this? Did that switch, you know, like
Yep.
see Zoom or something?
It looks
Okay.
like a presentation now.
Okay, because I may jump around. Well, first of all, I want to be kind of concise. Is it still there if I escape? Can you still see my presentation? You can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
It shrinks
So
though.
I've got a presentation that's way too long. So let me go through the basics kind of quickly. And what I really want to get to are budget asks. We just covered, you know, the budget here and how I tried to work within the budget. So real quickly, we'll pop this up. Those of you know that I did this for my capstone project, and I really tried to do a deep dive into sustainable purchasing. Found a lot of stuff, including a measurement approach, which really helped us out, and found some guides from like the Sustainable Purchasing Research Institute, And here's another playbook, a case study, looked at a bunch of different municipalities, interviewed people, anonymous questionnaires. So some of the things that I found, we've kind of talked about, our Alder Schaefer kind of noted how, often we set the policy and the implementation. We've got some issues because you got a few people asking a lot of people to do stuff differently. And the main problems kind of that I was seeing, the two main ones fall down to miscommunication or lack of communication. We have some technical limitations. These are the two that I want to see if we can try and move forward, and then adjust some expectations. Factors associated with success. We actually do pretty well. We've got the policy. We're an innovative culture. Didn't really look into vendor relationships, but staff did not indicate that there were problems there. Our biggest one is access to information. And I put strong support from leadership just because of the history of the SPP, that things kind of fell through the cracks, and we need to work on that. So our biggest challenge is access to the information. If you go here and let's say you're looking for the purchasing policy or the plan, what you get, you'll see it right here, is a draft. I worked on this project for a long time, didn't even realize we had an adopted policy, and there's a resolution, a policy, a plan, and a guidance that I had to go to the planning department to get. It was cumbersome and difficult. So we've got some institutional memory issues going on here. We're kind of reinventing the wheel. So I think we need to deal with this so that we're not here again in another 7 years. If you look at this thing, it's huge. It's about 50 pages long, but they actually did a really good job. It's thorough. It's actually still fairly up to date, but it was just too much, too fast without any help. So mainly we need to work within our capacity. We've got a bit of a problem with the procurement process. It's very cumbersome, which I'm going to show you here in a second. We need to try and go into e-procurement. I'm trying to work within the budget process, and we're going to have to follow up a little bit and tone down the measurement. I think that's where it fell apart last time, because it just all got dumped onto Michelle Marks. And once you understand the procurement process, it's just practically impossible to measure what we were asking for. So how do we really compare to other cities? Well, only about 1 in 4 cities over 25,000 even have a sustainable purchasing policy. And 2 out of 5, or 40% of them, are having difficulty implementing it. So that puts us in about the 80th percentile, and we're actually below the cutoff of this city surveyed. But I took these researchers' effectiveness implementation index, where they asked about standards and rules, how important are that, routine purchases, and decision making. And we did pretty good. We actually came out higher than the average, and this was with staff reporting. We fell short on a couple of sections. One was chemicals and cleaning, and the other was road construction. So I've worked on both of those as well. And when I asked this particular, did this questionnaire, I asked at the very end, if you could, do any sustainability project, what would you do if you had the funding? And having non-toxic cleaners for all the buildings was one of them. But you can see they've got a lot of ideas of things that they would like to do. So they took it very seriously and were very involved. So this was, anonymous feedback. They also, during our meetings, provided unsolicited examples of what they were actually doing, which indicates to me that they're engaged and they really are trying to do the best they can. They just need some help. So here's where they've got some problems. The big one is they're somewhat overwhelmed. It was just too much. And even what we sent out was still too much. So I'm both cutting down and elaborating at the same time with these guidance sheets. So they're kind of going like this. Some were skeptical. We've been here before, no follow through. Measurement, that keeps coming up. And then just the logistics of it all and the process, this came up a lot. They're looking both backwards and forwards. How do we exist? How do we deal with existing contracts? And what do we do about, the future? And then of course, guidance. So now we have the suggestions. So this is how I addressed some of the suggestions. So they asked us to set priorities and prioritize each department's focus, okay? So if you remember, we had this flow chart where I just put everything together. Based on the surveys that you guys did, I put them in priorities. What are our highest priorities, moderate priorities, lowest priorities? You'll notice that there's some new categories, like we have HVAC here and natural gas appliances. We have cement and buildings. So we've added those in there as well. I have put guidance sheets and updated all these guidance sheets. So here's one for cement purchasing, for new one that we talked about, the low carbon initiative. I put standards in here, which they asked for. I have this external reference guide where I educate them a little, link them to some pilot studies, explain things we're asking for, and tie them together to a lot of guides. So I've done all that. And another thing I did was, in terms of the budget, in the highest category, I came up with projects that different departments could do at each level. And for these three, I contacted let's go back. I contacted the related department and asked them if they would, request it for the budget or get it on their calendar. So I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but I do recommend a replacement plan here for natural gas appliances and HVAC. I've already kind of done this, but I would like to have an engineer look at the language. And then this is kind of the big one here, dealing with e-procurement. So then the other thing, they talked about having a holistic plan, tying it all together, because last time was a little piecemeal with timelines. I ran my first timeline by Lisa Canaro, talking to her about, finance and things like that. She asked me to bump it out to 5 years. So I put together a 5-year plan here, which includes, in the first year, as you can see, we work on this inventory replacement plan, update the language, research e-procurement. Here's a big one, getting our fuel data in an analyzable form. Currently it's in a PDF, so we can't, where is it out here? You can't, it's a 93-page PDF. So we have all the energy data that I think a lot of people have been requesting here, by car, by driver, by what product they're purchasing. And then we have the total, but all of this has to be entered manually. You can't get it's not going into any software that you can analyze anything with. Versus if we had e-procurement, instead of having somebody copy and paste and scan, you could capture it in that process. I did try to incorporate some of the things that Bob Owen came up with, like the natural gas. I incorporated that. I think we need to update our website for communication a little bit. So that's incorporated too, because he talked about wanting a report. Get to that in a second. One thing I think we need to talk about here in a second is this airport decarbonization. I agree with it. We will be recording energy used there, but he has incentives and schemes. It's not really a purchasing policy issue, even though the comprehensive city plan does say that we need to do this. So this is something that needs to be done. I just don't know if it needs to be done with the SPP. It doesn't really fit in there. So now really the meat of it is finance and measurement, dealing with the budget requests, and can we capture some stuff that's already being done? So here's the purchasing process. You make your public notice, you accept bids, you choose a bid, you submit your request, and then you place your order. It's all manual. Everything is scanned, manual. So when I said, can I see the energy data? They're like, we got to pull it manually, find it manually. When I asked to get, like I said, the fuel data, that's in a PDF. I tried converting some of this stuff into Excel, and you can do it with like a sheet at a time, but the fuel data was 93 pages long. So one of the things I learned in the lit review is you can capture this stuff if you do e-procurement. You just create a field and you can capture your environmental data as you go. And then it's all part of it and it's electronic. And until you get to that, tracking environmental data is just a beast that I think is beyond the capacity of our current staff. They just don't have the bandwidth or the time to do it. It's I think an inappropriate ask at some level. It's just too much. There's a lot of benefits to e-procurement. When I was researching it, I ran into this one, it's open.gov that they use at Sun Prairie. I just randomly found that, so I'm going to call this guy. I didn't get to talk to him before this presentation because I didn't find it in time. But then he talked about how they cut down on the manual process that were 20 to 30 years old, and they saved hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. So if we're in that same position and we can actually afford e-procurement, I think we should do it. That's the budget request that I would make. Dane County also uses the same system, OpenGov, which I have it linked here. You can see all these products here, but they've got e-procurement. And I watched the video. I'm not promoting any particular software. I'm just noting that Dane County uses it, and so does Sun Prairie. So I just used as an example, what Kelly did for what we just talked about, the new construction, things like that. This is just an example. Bill Burns said that even though the departments had to submit their proposals, that since our committee meeting came after that deadline on Friday, that a committee could make a request. So I don't know if we do it through the planning. I don't know if we do it straight to them. I don't know this process exactly. I haven't done it before, but I do know from meeting with Lisa that if you tie it to a strategic goal and you can tie it here, it's going to increase the probability of funding. And I think that we could make a case, at least for an RFP, a request for proposal, or to research it or something. This is where I would actually like a little help from Bill. But since he did say we could make a request, I think if we want to move forward with promoting e-procurement, I could probably work with him next week or something. And the sustainable city plan and pulls from Energy 5, which I think comes from the comprehensive plan. And it talks about policies for data tracking, benchmarking, and purchasing sustainable products. So I think we can make a case for e-procurement to work on sustainability to help us track the environmental things, data. So that would be my first request that I would make. This also ties it to I pulled up strategic, our strategic plan, city plan as well. And so it has some core principles there. So I've learned if you want it to go through, you better tie it to something in policy. The other suggestion, which was for a bunch of guidance, you know, create a preferred vendor list, although this, we might have some government interference, create green purchasing guides, provide more specifics, things like that, which I have already done in a lot of these. So you might ask, okay, where did all this information come from? Which I think goes to the next thing. We really desperately need a central resource to go to, because I pulled all these resources from other municipalities. So these municipalities did not have SPPs. Boulders was outdated, but Charlotte has a fabulous data-driven website in terms of displaying energy and communicating with the public. Portland's, if you just want to be very business-like, they have a very well-organized sustainable procurement. They tell you about the program and related features. Got an overview page. You can go to the policy. And if you look here, you've got the whole history. It's all right there. So, you know, if we had done this, it would have had that 2017 up there. It would have had all that information I was looking for and had to dig for and couldn't find, which is right there. They also have it linked to the code and the city climate action plan. So all the things we're trying to do, this green building policy, that's on the agenda for tonight. All this is connected. And then they've got their procurement initiatives. And this is really what I started linking them to, like this low carbon concrete project, which explains how you can use low carbon to draw down your emissions there. So I have, oops, what did I do here? All right, it's over here. Oh, there we go. We'll go back to this. So anyway, they've got a lot of information here. They've got case studies. Santa Monica is where I pulled most of the information from. They have just a wealth of information. So this is their old website. As you can see, they've got education, green building. But if you go to the Buy Green page and you go to the Easy Guide, they have 2-page guides for all these categories. And I have linked everybody, I've linked all of these categories in our sheets. And so each one is 2 pages. I think I opened these up. Where did I open these up? Yeah. So like I said, they've got them for everything: appliances, HVAC, printing, multi-purpose paper, letterhead. We're never going to get all this stuff, you know, built, but it's great. I see why staff would really like this. The only problem with some of these is it tells you, it has phone numbers in here, you know, that are California numbers, but the information is all correct. So how I positioned it was, while we're building out our own custom materials, please reference these, which will help get us up to speed quickly.
So
Something to note is that these people are updating their website. We can take you to Charlotte there, but I'll go fast. They've got all the stuff linked here. So that's my second recommendation, is to update the website to improve institutional memory. This is from Charlotte's climate. I'm taking too much time here. I've got some recommendations on how to do that, but essentially, the second rec, if we talk about updating it, that it can be a central resource for everything. It would be a user-friendly format of climate and energy reporting. I think what needs to be done is, you know, beyond what, you know, we would ask of Kelly. It would improve citizen communication, and you could use it for the rest of as a model for the rest of the city. And if you look at the city comprehensive plan, it says that a #1 strategy is to enhance open and accessible channels of communication between city staff, elected and appointed officials, and all residents. So I think we could tie that in as well. So those are my two main requests. Here's the timeline, which I know I've thrown a lot at you. We can back up, and I'll go through all that. And I also have a summary of all the changes and everything I just said in as fast as I could. So now let me open it up to questions. I'll go back out to, I gotta find my right page where you guys are all at. So
I feel like I would like a copy, a digital copy of your presentation. This is like really fantastic and wonderful. I would like it to review
yes,
it, just so let it soak in a little bit and click on some of the links and things like that. That's how I'm
yes,
feeling. Kermit.
I can link it. I was gonna link it, and I can have that to you 5 minutes after the meeting is
Yeah,
over.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I mean, doesn't need to be 5 minutes. But yes, Kermit.
First off, thank you very much, Laura.
Yes.
It's like we've needed somebody with the bandwidth, the energy, the intelligence to kind of really dig into this. And this looks like a phenomenal result. Particularly, I mean, for years I've said, well, there are cities out there that have got to have figured this out, don't we? And I personally do not have the bandwidth or the connections. And sure enough, Portland and Santa Monica. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. I really hope that we're on the verge of pushing this thing to and past the finish line. Question though for our discussion right now, in terms of process, what is our outcome? Because right now, Laura's given us a lightning overview of her research findings. I'm impressed. I think there are a lot, a lot of insights that I think if we can apply them, recommendations for budget, getting e-procurement, updating the sustainability website. Yes. So what are we needing or wanting to do tonight? Because it's just past 8 o'clock and we have maybe half an hour worth of other agenda items. I don't know how to pace it.
Yeah.
So that's my immediate clarification question before we do anything else.
Yeah, well, I feel like we need to, let at least have a little time to review. When I see if you go to 37 and 38, Laura, just we would need internal owners, internal champions who want in the city who want to take this on and own each one of these. If we get the e-procurement, that's great, but who in the city is going to own that? Who's going to, do the training? Who's going to handle the contract? I mean, I don't know if that all funnels up to Bill, Kelly, or
I can
who's
I
the
can
tech
speak to that for
person?
just a second.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things I took, one recommendation I took out,
Yeah.
which let me see if I can open it just to pop it in there. I think it's in this one. You see, I cut and cut and cut, and I still did it too long. But the recommendation that I took out, oh man, hang on.
Just a verbal recap.
Yeah, was really about a part-time generalist manager position where they would, administer like a little index. They would help collect energy data. They would help do the setup and things. The beauty of e-procurement is the department heads would still be using that particular, they would still be making their own purchases and things. So it's just all online as opposed to one person has to run it and it all has to go through that person. So it's really a system that then everybody else can use. And but you do need to get it set up. And my concern about that, I did have it in here somewhere. Where did that go? I can't remember. Well, anyway, I had it in here somewhere, but anyway, there is a part-time position that is supposed to be filled between 2025 and 2029, I guess, here in the strategic plan, that it did talk about an employee to help with the climate task. And then they talked about carbon emissions if you wanted to tie it to something. I don't know that that's going to get passed. It was made pretty clear to me that they don't like to hire, but the budget. They don't like to hire people. Most people are going to get cut. You could maybe do it with a, consultant. If you could have a
Yeah.
consultant that would
Gotcha.
follow up.
So,
Yeah.
So anyway.
so again, I guess I'm wanting us to clarify, what do we need to do regarding the sustainability purchasing policy implementation plan tonight? Is this just information and you're gonna send us copies, we're gonna review it and have a follow-up meeting? Or are you hoping we can make some kind of decision or recommendation, like add this to the budget request, which I
That's what
think
would
you may
these would
be
be.
I'm sorry?
I'm a little, yes, I feel I'm a little, we just kind of, we're all off by about a week. I wish I had been able to get you this information earlier so you could have time to review it. I'm kind of leaning a little bit on Bill Burns saying, oh, you might be able to get it in after the fact as a request.
Yeah.
I don't know how to,
Basically,
I recommend that we do this. We request an e-procurement software and trying to work with Bill Burns to see if we can get it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the same thing here, that we request an update to the sustainability website and try to work with Bill Burns to get it in. It may or may not happen.
Yeah.
Right.
So a couple thoughts on really quick from me is that if it's going to save a ton of staff time, the money shouldn't be an issue. It's a matter of working with Bill Burns to help just move these things forward. It seems to me, without knowing really much about this, I'm not in the city and things, but I think you're right. It's too much for Kelly. We don't want to put this on her. But yeah, I almost think Bill should own it. And then, he can drive it too. And it sounds like you've done a good job working with him and he's really bought in, which is perfect.
Well, sort of. He's open. He's
Yeah,
open to
well-
researching the options. So I don't want to speak for him. It's just
Yeah, okay.
very generous with his time.
Yeah.
I think maybe I get one more meeting with him.
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't want to take too much of his time though.
Yeah, okay, Dean.
Yeah, it just strikes me that the city manager is going to need to be involved to
Yeah.
do something like change the entire procurement process. But I am very excited, Laura, about starting with e-procurement so you can start with something that's going to lay down an analyzable record over time immediately at the time of action. So that's such a huge step forward.
Yeah.
Because every meeting we were in, people would have anecdotes. And
Yeah.
that's literally what we know.
Yeah. Laura, would it be fair to say that you share this, and again, if Laura shares this would be, just to be clear, for, shares it in digital format. This is for our use only, internal as the committee at this point. Please do not share this more broadly at this point.
Yes.
It's not that we couldn't share the information in the future, but let's keep this tight right now, because this is not approved and, this is not even vetted by our committee yet, really. So let's just keep this, just to keep this moving forward right now, let's keep it among the committee only at this point. We've discussed it and it's out there, but draft is key. Because some people might think this is all approved and everything, and it's not, it's not widely circulated. So, okay, Kermit.
So again, just to get some sense of closure on this discussion, it doesn't sound like we're at a point where we can give a formal recommendation
Right.
or a budget item request.
No.
So are we just needing to table this for future discussion?
Well, I
Or are
think
we wanting to give Laura marching orders to do whatever hook or by crook she can to get some kind of a budget request in?
I propose Laura shares the document. I don't know if everyone wants to review it, or just maybe Dean, Laura, and I. This is the first time I'm seeing it. Dean, you would want to see it in more detail. I mean, we were the subcommittee working on this. In fact, maybe that's what we do, is just share it with the three of us and copy Kelly at this point. So we're not, I don't know, unless everyone else wants to see it too, that's fine. Kelly, what is the rules on that? I don't want to do too much committee business outside of the committee. you know,
Yeah, nothing can be discussed outside of the committee. People can have a copy of this and review it and come back to
Yeah.
another public meeting to discuss.
okay. And
Right.
then why don't we do that? Can you share it with the entire committee? Here's what I'm proposing. Kermit, let me know if this sounds good to you. Share it with the entire committee with, again, please request that the committee not share this.
I don't understand, Christie, why the subcommittee shouldn't be looking at it first and then coming back to another meeting and then,
That's what I'm gonna say. Everybody can have have eyes on it, but the subcommittee will review it before the
Right.
next meeting and come back with recommendations. Is that what you were gonna say, Dick?
no, I was suggesting your subcommittee just review it because you hadn't seen it yet. And
No.
Dean is obviously, I could tell by why he is watching it and thinking about it, that I would think that your subcommittee of 3 ought to be digging more into this and understanding it and then come back at a future agenda item, a major one where we can really understand it better. I mean, it feels like it's a really important thing, but
Yes.
it kind of blew me away. So I'm not sure, I don't even want to look at it, quite frankly.
Okay,
Until
yeah.
you guys digest it and figure out what it is that we need to do.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page, Dick. I appreciate that comment, but I do think we're on the same page. Laura,
Right.
Dean and I will now really spearhead this
Right.
based on Laura's excellent work. And then how about this? In case others want to see it, Laura can share it, but if you don't want to look at it, Dick, don't look at it.
Yeah. And
Kermit,
that's what I would recommend, is like, it's the digital age. Share it with the
yeah.
committee. I don't guarantee I have bandwidth, but I'd like to have the opportunity, and if I can make the time, I would like to, but
Yeah.
again, the
There's
subcommittee.
all sorts of
Well,
links in
maybe-
there. You can go
Yeah,
nuts.
but again, capital letters, draft. This is a draft.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna
right.
say, you can put on each slide, can't you, some kind of
Yep.
Yes, I
draft for
would,
review
Laura.
and review
Or a
purposes
watermark.
only, or something that identifies it as clearly each slide is a draft, or
Yep.
whatever the documents you decide. Laura, you could maybe trim this down to
that's-
more relevant number of documents and then put draft on them or something.
Laura, I would like you to actually, if you can put a watermark on, of some type of
I can do
watermark,
that.
not to
Yeah,
be shared.
that's what I'm suggesting, a watermark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, not to be shared
do that.
outside of committee.
Right.
Without express, specific approval from chair or vice chair.
That's perfect.
Not to be
Okay.
shared without approval. How about that?
Specific, explicit approval in
Explicit.
writing, in writing.
And I just have to reiterate as staff that the subcommittee can't meet on this or discuss via email back and forth and talk it through without it being public meeting.
Even the 3 of us can't?
Well, I don't understand. If it's just 3 people and they're the subcommittee, why can't the subcommittee meet?
So is the 3? I thought 3 was okay. Kelly, is that not?
It involves the potential for a negative quorum, which means that if 3
Right.
people met and
Yeah.
then you came back together next and you decided, let's go with this line of thinking, we want to do this, and we've talked about it, the 3 of us. And then you come back to the full committee, and let's say there's only 6 people at that committee meeting. Then, because the 3 of you would be together on the line that you want to follow and take on this item, it could potentially throw the vote a certain way. This is how open meeting laws
Okay,
work. It's
okay.
my marching orders from my superiors. So I have
okay.
to let you know so that you don't get in trouble, I don't get in
Yep.
trouble.
No,
And
that's
we
fair.
keep
And-
everything transparent.
Yes, and we do want to stay in compliance. So, and just to be clear then, does that mean even if 2 of us discuss something, and we would be coming forward with, hey, we think this, that's also potentially negative quorum. Is that right?
No, 2 would be okay by that count. The problem is, if we have 10 committee members total, a quorum is 6. Half of 6 is a negative quorum of 3, and so 3 is the
Say that
radioactive
again, Kermit?
number.
I was looking at the time. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Okay. We have 10 committee members.
Yeah.
a quorum is 6.
Yeah,
So as Kelly's pointed out, at a meeting with 6 committee members, half of that total is 3, and that would be a negative quorum. That would be enough votes to reject a recommendation or a decision. And so that's why 3 is too many, but 2,
even
would
though
be
it's
okay.
half, so half wouldn't be enough to, because it would be tied, right? Is it, I'm just trying to understand it. I'm not saying no.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just-
yeah, yeah. Okay, let's call it 7 then. But 3 could be, well, no, 6, I think is the
Yeah,
way the
that
numbers
you
work
you
out.
said it exactly
3.
right.
You
I
said it
have no
right.
idea
Yeah,
why they went with a half versus more than a half, but they went with a half, and
Okay, just to
that's
be
how it is.
conservative. Okay, so
Yeah.
Laura, why don't you and I discuss and then, because that's okay, and then Dean, you review, is that?
Yeah.
what-
I'll just
Okay.
come to the next meeting
With,
without talking to you guys.
okay, thank you. I mean, I do, even though we don't want to spend too much time on that kind of stuff, we do want to be in compliance.
Yeah.
You know, that is
I
important.
think best
Or-
practices are just to, in a public meeting, provide all the information that everyone needs, give marching orders, and then come back together in the next public meeting and discuss and make your decisions publicly. That's
Okay.
like a
and
general rule.
And for the record, my understanding is that the 3 of you on the subcommittee could give
Yeah.
public notice to a meeting
Yeah.
and meet in some public forum or
Yeah.
your context, and that would be sufficient as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could meet as
Odds are
many as
very
you
good.
want.
Nobody would show up except you guys. And
Okay,
so it would be
got
no
it.
big deal.
That's
but
helpful
still.
too. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, so we have a plan. Let's move forward now. I think we made that plan. Laura, you and I are gonna converse, and then everybody's gonna look at it if they want. But you're gonna review, Dean, for
Yep.
sure, because you run the subject. Okay, great. Let's move forward if that's okay. Laura, this is like the most spectacular thing I think anybody's seen in a long time. So thank you.
Yes.
Sorry for throwing so much information at you at once, but I wanted you to know what I did.
Yeah,
So
got it.
hopefully it
Okay,
was helpful.
it's very,
I
okay,
agree. It's incredible, Laura. It's amazing.
yes,
Yep.
yeah, okay. Kelly, would you mind just going over the library form quick? And then talk, yeah, go forward.
Okay, this is a courtesy addition to the agenda. This is a partnership agreement that was drafted by the library to work interdepartmentally between other departments. And I just wanted to share this with you. If you have any review or feedback, that's fine. If not, then that's fine too. There's no need to necessarily comment on this. The library wrote this up because they're working with the sustainability committee a lot on the sustainable use. So they wanted to be clear about roles and responsibilities and what each group is responsible for. So they laid it out in this document, and I will sign it and let me know if you have any comments. The red here in this document is what they're striking. So the only major change is that in the future, the Middleton Public Library won't actually create the promotional flyers. If we get our publicity materials to the library 60 days in advance of the event date, they will share them through their networks, but they won't create the promotional flyers for our events. And they will not handle registration and send reminder emails to registrants, which isn't such a big deal these days because this was conceived of during COVID when they were doing everything online and there was more of a need for that. And then the contact at the library has changed. So there are minor changes. I just wanted you to have the courtesy of looking at it because it is an agreement that directly affects the sustainability committee if you move forward with doing sustainable U events at the library.
Uh,
Kermit,
There's
Just
no-
one point of concern is handling registration, sending reminder emails is a critical function even for in-person events. And if they're not going to do it, than who is. Because I mean, it was a bit, I mean, we've had a recent cancellation of an event where they had to then send email notices to people who were not going to need to show up anymore because it had been canceled.
Yep, we could either not do registration and just publicize it in various ways with reminders, or we could look into using a system that Parks and Rec uses, but I don't know how
Yeah.
that would work, if I would even have access to that. And I really don't want to be handling registration. I don't think I have the capacity.
Yeah. How about this?
So do
We have
they
9
have
minutes
it?
left. I definitely want to end at 8:30. And we have 9 minutes left and we haven't heard from the green team and things. Let's note this for events going forward. But Brad, we would love to hear from you. Let's move forward to any updates you have with green team.
Only update I have is that a couple of us on the green team started a sunrise hub here in the Madison area, and we're looking to organize like a thing at the Capitol, an event at the Capitol. Hopefully, giving speeches. It's supposed to be art based, so they're gonna have some artists, maybe some music. Just trying to promote sustainability, and hope to get some government attention, I suppose.
What is a sunrise hub?
It's a national organization that is working on trying to get Biden to declare climate emergency and things of that nature. So it's like an activist group, and we just started as just like a local hub here in Madison. So I can send you information if you'd like, but
Okay.
I've only been to 2 meetings. I don't want to speak for. I'm not personally involved with creating it, but I have gone to a couple of meetings. But I can get you contact info. Someone I know if you want.
Kelly, were you going to say something?
I just would like information about that. I know it's a national organization, and a lot of my climate guru people that I follow are really involved in it and talk about how successful the sunrise groups are.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll
Kermit?
just note that Sunrise Movement has been around for a while, largely youth organized and youth executed. They're very much into the advocacy and political engagement side of things, which is wonderful. I'm just wanting to raise the concern that we need to clear up how to maintain boundaries. Like, for instance, a couple of us here on the committee also happen to be members of another organization that's involved with climate, but we do not represent that. 350 Wisconsin is a sustainability committee approved group, nor do we, so I'm just wanting us to be
Okay.
cautious regarding any advocacy concerns that might get tripped up if we say, oh, so to hear that you're doing that, Brad, that's great. But how you present that relative to the sustainability committee is something to be double check on.
Okay.
I don't have,
Noted.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if any city manager would be upset or concerned, but
Okay.
what you do in your own time is no problem. But if you say the sustainability committee is approving this, that could cross some line that would get us possibly in trouble.
Okay,
So,
noted. We'll
follow up. Somebody,
Brad, follow up with Kelly or I about that. Or, for sure. That's a good point that Kermit brought. Okay, Good Neighbor Festival. Dick.
Okay, well, Kelly, we have the bags. Did we get registered for the parade? I mean, do we know our order in the parade? I mean, the thing is coming this Sunday, so it's amazing. And we need a little work party to stuff bags, and I don't know if we have enough. Did you determine if we have enough even of the older tote bags to stuff the 1,000 bags that we just picked up? These are the same bags we had last year, the little foldable, smaller tote bags. And we stuff them in larger tote bags, and I wasn't aware of this until not too long ago. That Kelly's been using them for tabling events. So do we have enough left to even put these little tote bags in the big ones for the parade?
I haven't counted the big ones, but I think we'll do what we can do, and then we can stuff the smaller bags with the bags if we have to for a few of them, but we'll just have to make do with what we have. But we do need to set up a time this week for a couple people to come in. I can even agenda that there's a notice of potential quorum, and it's not a problem to do that. But we need to set up a time to stuff these bags. It doesn't take long. It took how long last year? About 40 minutes, 30 minutes
Yeah,
with 3 people.
well, I can work on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
But I need to know who else. First of all, how many are gonna be in the parade? I mean, of people here on the committee?
I'm
Well-
out of town, sorry.
Yeah, Kermit's out. I wanna
I'll
know
do it.
who's on it, not who's not. So
Yeah, I'm just,
Dean, you sent an email out. Dean
Yeah.
said you're gonna be there?
No, no, I didn't.
Oh,
That was
okay,
for the
who was I
meeting.
thinking? Who?
Yeah, that was just for this meeting.
Oh, okay, I read the
That's a
email
good
wrong.
point. Kelly doesn't need emails from people about who can attend these committee meetings. It's just if you cannot.
Okay,
Just so you know.
who
Just to cut
can
down
be,
on Kelly's
who
emails.
will be at the parade from this committee? Besides
be at the
myself and
parade.
Deb and Laura. That's it, right? 3 of us, okay. And unfortunately, Deb's on vacation out of town and she gets back in a day or two. Maybe we should wait until she gets back, Kelly, because we want her to be part of the stuffing. Have you arranged to get the car from the city, the same car like last year?
The car's arranged. We're registered for the parade. We have our spot. I believe it's near the end in front of the forward marching band.
Okay, so last year we met about 11:30. The parade starts at noon, right? So actually being there a little before 11:30 is helpful. We got to arrange from student volunteers. Communication's been out, but Deb has been really taking the lead on that stuff. So I guess we'll be in touch of the 3 of you, Laura, myself, and who was the third person on our committee? Well, Deb, yeah. So Laura, we'll be in touch with you about where and when. Do you have any time? I don't know if you're busy. We need a couple people to help us stuff the bags. If you're available like during the day, at all, we could use your help, but if not, we'll just power through, Deb and I and Kelly.
Is that something, Brad, you would want to do? Help stuff you and your people?
I would be happy to help. The one goofy thing about this week is I'm actually at marching band all week
Oh, yeah.
throughout the
Okay.
day.
Okay.
So if we could find time after 5, maybe I could find time, but that's the only limitation for me.
Okay.
I think, Brad, you got enough on your plate with the marching band and everything, so
Yeah.
we'll,
Yeah. That's enough.
Okay.
we'll
Okay.
let
All
Laura
right.
know when we're doing it. If you can help Laura, if not, then
Okay.
I think Deb and I and Kelly can do it soon as she
Great.
gets back. So Kelly we'll work it out with you as soon as Deb gets back and we'll get it done.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we'll be sending out Laura to you, let you know, but it'll be basically the same place like down by the school, I'm assuming. Be there by at least 11:30, if not a little sooner.
Okay. It is 8:29.
Yeah.
Lynn, I'm going to follow up with you separately about the utility flyer, Sustainable You, the information, and Kelly talked about it, and it's also in her staff report. Standing agenda items, we kind of had some of those, and they'll be in the minutes, but we talked about some of those, so we'll follow up. Dick, did I cut you off too soon about the Good Neighbor Fest, or
No, I want to make a motion, we end the meeting.
Okay, there you go, make the motion. I think we're
I make a
Second.
motion that the meeting be over.
second.
second. All in favor? I'm sure that's unanimous. Okay,
Aye.
thank you,
Aye.
everyone.
Aye.
Have a good night.
Thanks.